Enduro mountain biking takes its cues from rally car stage racing in that there'll be a big loop, but there'll be timed stages that make up the race. So Enduro mountain bikes have to be fast downhill, that's for sure, that's where the timing happens, but they also need to be capable of doing big loops, like around 70 kilometers and almost 1,000 meters of climbing in some cases.
Yeah, that's right. And the raw technical and completely ungroomed nature of EWS race trails tends to mean the wheel travel on the bikes is going up and up. So once upon a time, it might have been at 150, similar to where trail bikes are, but now it's firmly above 160, getting closer towards 190 with some bikes. And to make the bikes handle the climbs a bit better, they've got really steep seat angles to centralise your position there to make the bikes basically more applicable to get back up for that winch and plummet sort of style of the racing format.
Deviate dropped the Claymore this year, and while they had the Highlander, they said people were doing crazy stuff on there that the Highlander just wasn't designed to do, so they made a bigger, burlier version, and they named it, well, the Claymore, because it's a big old Scottish sword designed for slaying trails, apparently. Check this out on screen. It's your big hitting 29er from the brand that arguably popularised the high pivot suspension design. So you've got a rearward axle path there to smooth out the nastiest of trails and also stabilise the bike when it's deep in its suspension stroke. So for example, on corners. You've got 165 millimeters of rear travel, and you can choose between 160 or 170 up front. They've also fitted grease ports to all of the pivots and the idler bearing as well, in the name of good old Scottish and British winter riding. It's boost, it's got threaded BB, the geometry has a head angle of 64.3 degrees, a seat tube angle of 78 degrees, with reach coming from 460 for a small up to 520 in the large. It's available in a beautiful moss green or rowan red, and it's £3,300 for frame only. You're going to have to custom build this machine. They don't come fully built, but it's an absolute head turner.
Okay, next up is the Unno Burn, which I think it's safe to say is a pretty unique looking machine. Now, it's designed by César Rojo and his amazing team from Spain. Everything is done and printed and produced down there near Barcelona. Now, this thing is absolutely wild looking, and César is no stranger to designing popular race bikes. He's worked for Mondrake before, designing concepts for them, also for Intense, and of course his own brand Unno bikes. But this bike is an absolute weapon, so a few shots of it coming up on screen right now. So, mixed wheel size, 27.5 on the rear, 29 on the front. Totally popularised at the moment. There's a lot of brands choosing to do this, offering the best of the 29-inch wheel, but a bit more clearance on the back for manoeuvrability. Hidden integrated seat clamp, full carbon construction, integrated chain guide, integrated cable routing in through the headset, not through the head tube there, which not a lot of people are massive fans of, but you can't deny it looks seriously clean. Internal storage capacity, and the actual frame material, so all the resin parts of the frame, like the chain guides and things, are made from recycled plastic and fishing nets, which is great. So 201 grams of that bike comes out of bad stuff from the ocean, which is always a good thing. Now, the frame, interestingly, relies on 35% sag, which is a bit more than you tend to have. You tend to have 25 to 30% sag, sometimes as little as 20 on bigger travel bikes. So the angles they quote, it's going to be a lot more relaxed than this. So static, the geometry, head angle 64 degrees, seat angle 76.5, and they've got an S1, S2, S3 style sizing, so they're based on length rather than height, so a much more modern way of doing things. So the reach on the S1 is 435, on the S2 is 470, and on the S3 is 510, so a nice big bike there. Low slung top tube, all of them have 700mm standover height, and from €7,795. Now, it's a wild looking bike, and they also have an eNTB version, if that ticks your box, which looks so similar to it actually, to be fair, that you pretty much pick whether you want, I hate to say the terms, acoustic or electric, but hey, you can pick. That thing is wild.
Nukeproof Mega or Nukeproof Giga, we can't decide between the two, they're great. But certainly when they dropped the Sprung collection this year in 2022, Well, it got us wanting both, didn't it? Now, this was Nukeproof's opportunity to bring niche coil brands to the masses, and they worked with each brand individually to tune the suspension to that coil. So check some of these out. We've got this gorgeous blue Mega 297 with the mixed wheels and the push industries. This thing's got spherical bearing eyelets so that it moves freely, and it's also got a little toggle switch that means you can switch between two different settings on your shock, say park mode or descent mode or climb mode, whatever you want, which is really cool, and a massive 25 clicks of external high speed and low speed compression. And then over with the French company Fast, you've got this gorgeous black or purple Giga or Mega 297 with 3 independent compression circuits on low speed, mid speed and high speed, with a shock weight of only 500 grams without that spring. And then you've got the Giga or Mega in either 297 or 290 coming and merging with the EXT shock. Famous for working with Formula One and rally and motocross, this Italian tuning house has a wealth of history and experience with suspension, and they are ridiculously supple. And I've got to say, that white Giga with the gold decals, oh my days, I want that for sure.
Purple and Fast. Okay, next up, the Nicolai Nucleon. Now, I'm almost not sure where to start with this bike because there's just so much stuff going on. Now, I'd heard about Lau bikes previously. I'd got in touch with Cedric, the designer of the system, and actually did tip me off that there's going to be a bike at Eurobike. So this is the bike on screen right now. Check the transmission out. So this, other than the fact it's a Nicolai and it's unreal what they offer anyway, and it's very typical of them to offer a bike with a gearbox or an alternative system, they're currently the first company to offer this as a production setup. So it's got the Lau Supra drive on there. So this is a brand new, and it's completely bespoke for this frame design at the moment. You have to have a frame to incorporate the drivetrain. You can't just fit this drivetrain on another bike. So essentially the rear mech is kind of butchered into 2 pieces, right? So it is a custom-made mech, but it appears to be what looks like a butchered one. So you just have the upper of the guide wheels on there. So that is the one that guides the wheel, moving the chain across the cassette. Yeah, it doesn't have the lower one, of course, which is normally hanging down. So they've moved the position upwards, and it's actually protected by the frame there. And then what would be the lower one, which is there to spring your chain, basically that's what your clutch would do to add all the force onto the chain there. They've moved that above the chain ring, and that one is responsible for doing the chain tensioning. Essentially, it wraps the system up. It makes everything a bit neater, a little bit lighter, reducing some unsprung to sprung mass ratio there. And it's basically a brand new design. And on top of that, it's a Nicolai. So not only is the bike going to be available in loads of different options, the geometry is great on it, and these things are absolutely bomb-proof. So a few more shots on screen. So it's available in the endless palette of paints and anodizing, 29 or 27.5 inch rear wheel on there, head angle 64, seat angle 78.3, so real nice and steep. The reach on the size medium is 480, so I think that says a lot because you get a lot of range on either side of that. They're big old bikes. So the frame without the Super Drive and without the shock is €3,099. Complete bikes are available from 7,499, and you can get them as of this month right now. I think that's a seriously exciting proposition for, let's face it, a drivetrain you're pretty much never going to break the rear derailleur because of where it is. If you like bike parks and stuff like that, could be a good option.
The Santa Cruz Megatower V2 has made it into the hot list because, well, it's just a sign of the way enduro bikes really are going with internal storage and UDH, universal derailleur hangers, and even flip switches. So we had to put it in there as one of the hottest updates for 2022. So check out this version 2 on screen. It is a full 29er, which many of the models are seeming to be going. It's 165 millimeters as standard in the rear. It can take 170 millimeters as well, though, if you wanted, and it will take coil or air. And it has the new updates with the glove box in the down tube. 5 sizes are available, and they do have size specific rear center, so it grows by 11 millimeters depending on the size. Geometry, we're looking at head angle of 63 degrees, which is obviously adjustable with that flip switch. Seat angle is 78 degrees. Well, obviously that will adjust a little bit as well. And the chainstays are size dependent this year, new for 2022, which is 436 for the small, or up to 447 for the extra large. And also the reach going from 430 up to 520, and some really grown-up paint jobs from Santa Cruz there, not to mention a lifetime warranty on their frames. And pricing, we're looking at from $5,499, and it's carbon only.
Tell you what, we could have been talking all day long about enduro bikes. There's a lot of good stuff out there, and undeniably a lot of very fast bikes that you're seeing. That latest Canyon Strive we've seen, of course, with all the gizmos and the quite bonkers sizing on it. That so nearly made it in, but not this time.
All about the YT Capra. I mean, it's not new this year, we couldn't say it, but that uncaged limited edition in the pink was just so crazy good. I loved it. But anyway, what did you guys think? What was the hottest bike in this list? Or did we miss something out? What was the hottest bike for enduro in 2022? Let us know down in the comments below.
See you later.